Okay.
Got it.
Well, we've had another event that is bolstering our work for sure. And I think everyone I've talked to is that much more supportive of what we're doing, and more folks have shown interest, and we'll see where that takes us. Well, let's just get right down to it. Who has something new since our last meeting?
Chris, I have a small thing. Well, it might be small. It might actually turn out to be helpful. In going through some of my boating magazines, I came across something called the Recreational Boaters Association of Washington. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but apparently it was formed back in the late 50s. And it's an association of representatives from multiple yacht clubs around Puget Sound. And they have a lobbyist in Olympia that helps push for recreational boating, agendas in the legislature. So that was interesting. But what was even more interesting is they apparently just got approved as some sort of nonprofit where they take in, contributions, donations from individuals, and they have some kind of fund to help promote recreational boat access within Puget Sound. So potentially another source of funding, something to look into. I think it's probably small right now because it's just sort of getting established, but I was encouraged to see that.
And have you sent a link or any paperwork?
I dropped the link into the Google Doc. Yeah.
Perfect.
At the end of my section about fundraising. So.
Yeah. Chris, you may not have dropped it yet, but the agenda is up on the webpage, as is the XLS, but I saved it as a PDF. Both of those links are on the website.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't get that to you sooner, Alan. I, like Mary, have had 10,000 things going, and Aid call last night, so I ran out of time.
Yeah, and as you'll see, I didn't quite finish the notes. I made notes, but then I got ended up going back to the Google Doc and updating some things. So tomorrow I can send notes from last week. I have them up on the screen if we want to go back and look at anything, but I didn't finish yet.
Okay. I can enable screen sharing if people want to. I've got it so anyone can share screen that needs to now. Let's see. I have, you guys aren't going to believe this, but I got caught in the Monday outage. I was trying to get over for a pre-op appointment. And I got caught in the Thursday outage over on the mainland. I was right up close and personal. So I had a very good opportunity to watch the process from the mainland side of the confusion and stuff like that was out there. If everyone was just kind of sitting at the dock. I was like third in line for the ferry that didn't go, for the first ferry that didn't go. And so I got to like watch. So I was sitting there for about an hour and 15 minutes or so until John Mulhern came out and gave the news that I might as well just head back to Bellingham because the ferry won't be coming online at all. And that was the only time that somebody came by. He walked the entire line at that moment. And he said it wouldn't be coming, they were calling the passenger ferry, and they would get the floats and stuff like that in. And so, and they expected to have walk-on service available at 8 p.m., pretty much like people said, that like the county posted. that was the only time that somebody from the ferry crew came up and said anything. So as the line grew bigger, people were kind of like sitting around like, well, what's going on and stuff like that. It was pouring down rain a lot. And so I walked along the line and I just kind of, talked to a few people and just said what I had heard, that there would be no car ferry, and passenger service would start at around 8 o'clock tonight. And so, make your choice to either stay or go do something else. Got to listen to a lot of people's comments in doing that. And so that was kind of interesting. And then probably around 2 o'clock, some folks from Public Works, and as soon as anybody from Public Works came, like people would swarm out of their cars in the ever-growing line and talk to the Public Works people. A lot of them didn't have a clue. They just knew that they were down there to get, the ferry wasn't running. No one knew what happened to it. So I guess the people that had next door were kind of starting to get posts. I thought the county did a good job about putting out posts. But there were people in the line that didn't have next door, that didn't have smartphones. And so, it was, and then a lot of people had pets that were on the other side, and, just single folks that didn't have, someone else at home to take care of their animals or anything. So a lot of people were concerned about their pets. And so it was kind of eye-opening. I stayed, and I decided I would stay and just watch the process, like how the docs got there, how they did things. And it was pretty enlightening. Am I taking up too much time, Chris? Or the way that the docs finally got there, I think it had been, they didn't even put a sign up. I think they put a sign up that said, Whatcom Chief is out of service until further notice. That was the sign that appeared, and that was probably around 2. I took a picture of it right as they were putting it up.
Yeah, it was posted on the website front page, and I'm linking to that post in our docs as well, so you can still see it.
Yeah. So and that was probably around 2 something before they had that. So at least then people knew what was going on. I was impressed with the fact that the Willows had a boat up and able to be over to the dock fairly quickly. And they were transporting guests. I don't know where they were offloading. I don't know where they were offloading on the island, but they were offloading, picking up people and taking them to the other side. And I had a couple, like 3 people came up and asked me, well, where can we park? And I just go, well, anywhere along the street, or, but don't park in this parking lot here. So I don't know. But I think that I would think it would be good to make a suggestion to the county that they need to try to get somebody to direct people on the Gooseberry side to let them know what's happening. And I don't know, that was okay. Oh God, I've got trick-or-treaters. Let me see if Jim can get them. Okay, I've probably been talking enough, but it was a real interesting process. I will be right back. Keep on going without me.
Welcome, Larry. Welcome, Lauren. Nick.
Can I ask something while Mary's off subject somewhat? What do we know about the sheriff's boat that is parked up at Scenic Estates old fire station?
I believe that's the Department of Ecology boat, or it was.
Oh, okay, they had the color. I didn't get it and walk around out. I saw the light bar and I saw the color. It looked like the Whatcom County Sheriff, but maybe not.
Yeah, a guy by the name of Zach is an employee of whatever I just said.
Department of Ecology.
Yeah, Department of Ecology for
Okay.
spill response. And so
Okay.
he uses that boat in his job.
Got it. Thank you. I thought maybe we had just suddenly found ourselves a boat that we could use.
He's actually offered that to the fire department to use anytime that we need it, but
Okay.
of course that won't work, so.
So Chris, this
All
is
right.
Jeff. On that same fire department, that's the one piece that I keep wondering, and I know this has been talked about before, but can you bring us back to why is the fire department not feel a need for emergency service, or do they, or what's their take on all this? You know, the emergency service part of this.
So right now, the fire department's gone through a big transition with getting a new fire chief. And though this is of concern and interest to the current new fire chief, it's something that has to actually start with the commissioners. And just like dealing with Whatcom County, there's all sorts of underlying rules, regulations, insurance, blah, 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 all this stuff that just makes it convoluted. And so the first step, and I'm taking it, is at our next commissioners meeting for the fire district, I will be asking them to start a process of pushing the county along and getting something sooner rather than later for emergency use. And I've talked with one of the commissioners, and he's definitely behind it. It's just a matter of now taking the steps to get it in motion. So a slow process anytime we're dealing with these groups, including the fire department. So they are interested though, and definitely will be pursuing it more to get them to put pressure.
Thank you.
I suppose I'll just update, I'll just go now just because I'll update you guys on where we're at on a couple things that might answer some questions or other thoughts that you may have. We had a meeting scheduled for Saturday morning at 9 a.m. at the county park. The text I received from the company who does the pile driving was apologetic. He said, "Oh, darn, I forgot to respond to you. We're preparing for a Halloween party, so I'm spending the day with my family." In other words, I'm not going to make it. So we're rescheduled now for Monday afternoon sometime. He hasn't given me a specific time, but he says he's going to shoot for Monday afternoon. So as soon as I know a time, I will send an email out. And if you can make it, great. If you can't, no problem. So that's where we're at on waiting. And he is still the only one that has made any contact with us in regards to coming out and looking at things, except for the other gentleman who I talked to once, but I've not got a return call. And I've had 3 more calls into him thus far. So I've not heard back from him yet. I talked with John Granger. I made mention of that for a place to put the reef net boat. He was very excited about it. It turns out that the other family members were not so excited about it. So he said, I can't approve it so fast. What I'm hoping is because one of those family members had to catch a ride because they didn't have a ferry to catch, will be a little more motivated to say, let's make this happen. I talked with Dave and Molly Harmony this very evening, which I already knew ahead of time is not the most ideal place because they have the highest bank. It would take more infrastructure to make the reef net boat go up and down on their bank. They're open to the idea, but they're like, well, you know, you really might want to find something a little bit lower. I'm in agreement. So, but at least they're open to talking about it still. Also, Chris Green has offered her boat ramp and use of her staging area for a boat since she doesn't have one anymore. We could put it there. The problem is it's on the, you know, towards the north end of the island. So it's going to add, you know, at least 30 minutes of travel time. If we can get it as close to the ferry dock as possible, the less time. You know, if we would have had it down on the Granger's beach there, we would have been in place in under a half hour. and going already. So it still makes sense to do it a lot closer. I've provided a document, an Excel document. I don't know how to find it on the website, Alan.
I'll
Maybe you
bring it
can
up.
tell us.
I'll bring it up.
This is just a rough draft on pricing I worked out today based upon things I've bought in the past. This is all actually at full retail price that I put everything. We most likely can get it less, but I'd rather, start with a high number and come under that for actual cost than under. So, but we're getting close to 40,000 already just on material costs currently that are available. And there's some stuff in there that I've left out, so there'll be more, but I think it's at 32,000 right now or something like that. But you can look at the Excel document. If you have any questions on it, you can ask me about it. So
Yeah.
those are the updates that I have and the work that I've accomplished this week, waiting on this doc guy. So Mary, were you finished, or did you want to say more on that subject?
I would like to just say a couple more things. I think like with the outage that we just had, I think that there are a lot of people that I've gotten a couple of emails from people. I got one from Reed Johnson, who he and his wife and their daughter and their five-day-old son were caught over there, and were really, he said that he would like to be involved and try to support what the committee is doing as much as possible. So for you, those of you who don't know, he is like the assistant manager or the general manager at the Willows. So, and he also said that he talked to the captain of that boat and told them that his response was totally inappropriate. And because there was it was kind of rude that he did not allow, just pull back a little bit to allow them to load Dave and Serena's skiff at the dock. That was pretty sad. And so he did said that. I can send that letter out to everybody if you want to read it, but and so, and I also, there was a person named Dave Parker, and I saw that you responded to him, Chris, about wanting to open up the meetings and stuff. And so I don't have a problem with people, attending the meetings and listening, but it's not going to, if we do that, you need to put in some time for people to have some response time build that into the meeting. So I don't know. I just would like to know how everybody else feels about that.
I hope my response is with everybody's thoughts. I was trying to hint at that we've got an agenda and we want to get it done. And, we'd love to ideas though. We want to hear them, but obviously we have limited time that we can get the things done that we need to. So we need to make sure that we stay focused on that.
Maybe we could do just at the end, if we allow other people in, is have a way just to allow a little quick comment or Q&A thing at the very end. And, while but in terms of having people observe us as we're having a discussion and that kind of stuff, I think we really need to welcome that, even though we're still pretty early in this game. It may not be particularly impressive if people join in right now, because we don't have a lot of, we're just kind of organizing ourselves and figuring out, the parameters of where and how, that kind of thing. But in general, having people be interested and see what's going on is not a bad thing.
Yeah. No.
I would just suggest that people be, Mary, I think you could do this, when people join that aren't on the committee, to mute them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it gets to be a real problem, with people just jumping in all the time.
Yeah, I can do that. They can unmute themselves, but I can do that, I think. I have the control to do that. So,
Would it make sense to have this meeting be kind of a working group meeting and then maybe have a public meeting once a month or something?
I'm
Just
more in favor of that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am concerned. I mean, just, because you get a lot of information from next door and you see how frequently people are asking the same questions. Oh, well, don't worry about it. Aston is going to handle this. Oh, don't worry about it. The new ferry will come and apparently there will be no problems ever again. Question about what's the difference between a marina and a public dock? And I agree that I think one reason that we've all been like very motivated with this group is we've just been churning along. And I think that would be a way to go. Yeah, say there's a working committee, whatever they call it, with a committee when you're in chambers or something. And then there's a separate meeting.
executive and then a public meeting. Yeah, So-
It's a lot easier that way because you can get off the rails real quick.
Especially,
Okay.
I mean, the reality is you go through the whole thing on the 31st and then the 6th, somebody new comes on and they ask all the same questions again, right? So that I could really see that being an issue.
I think one of the things to do is to always on Nextdoor, or if there's a question, refer them to the page on the website. It's got everything. You know, in the interim, if somebody asks a question on Nextdoor, refer them to the website.
Do you guys want to set a, like, say, wait and start this in January? I mean, I assume we won't have really 4 full meetings in December. I assume we'll have a little downtime. Would it seem kind of disruptive to try to figure out how to have a monthly meeting at this stage and can wait a little bit? Do you think that will be okay? Or you feel like this is something that should have a faster response?
I think this, just because of the circumstance of what happened, you might get more people interested if we did it kind of like striking while the iron is hot. We don't have a lot of information, but we do have a lot of information. We can share with people like what we have explored. We could share some of like our documents and our reasoning and stuff like that, but I think it would behoove us to be pretty prepared for that meeting.
Well, it might be good to do like a monthly Q&A session and just dedicate it to that. And the webpage already has the reasoning, the goals. It has the stuff.
Mhm.
I would not ever point them, and you can't. It's a closed document. Point them to the Google Doc. But what we're willing to publish is on the website currently under the committee. And I'm all for doing it. I would just do it as a QA session and advertise it as that.
Question. Alan, can you post the template of how to access the committee's postings on the website? I wanted to review what had previously been done last week, and I couldn't find how to open that.
That was what do you mean by a template? It's in the
Well,
minutes.
it's the steps you have to go through to get to it. I mean, I can get to Leica's website, but then I'm lost after I get there.
Okay. I'll send you a thing.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Would probably be
Anybody
good
else
to
have that
just
issue or not,
post
but-
that on the front page or something. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of hard to do
It's
that.
it's a clutter item then, because
Mhm.
it's not a notice, it's not an announcement. But yeah, now if we do a Q&A and stuff, yeah, we can definitely do that. But
So when would you folks want to schedule a Q&A in November or early December?
I'd say let's wait until we have more information from the pile driving company. So we have a little more available.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we kind of, I think, have a good plan if we're still serious about pursuing the reef net boat dock option. If that's something that we're still going to be serious about, then, you know, it's just a matter of moving forward on that and collecting funds for it in order to make it happen. But there's too many unknowns right now for the public dock, I think.
Yeah.
On the reef net thing, I would not be comfortable going ahead on the funding for that or anything else until we have an engineer look at the design. It should be a structural engineer. We don't want to be asking for trouble.
I'm sorry, Alan, you were breaking up some. So you're talking about for the reef net.
Yeah, for the reef net boat,
Uh-huh.
I would, the draft is nice, but I wouldn't go ahead with anything on that unless we had a structural engineer help with the design of it. We have to make sure that whatever is designed and we eventually ask for money for is structurally sound. Did that come across?
Uh-huh.
My opinion.
Yeah. And my feeling is after, you know, looking at the costs, and I think you did a really good job costing it, Chris. Is Dave, you posted something called Easy Dock. And I was looking at those docks, and I think that could be another way to go, but I had no idea how much the reef net thing conversion would go. But I could see some advantages of the Easy Dock system in that, you know, it would be something that could, you know, maybe be a little more weather doable. What I don't know is if it's a dock, then it's not a vessel, then we might have to go through all kinds of permitting hoops. And so I think that it would behoove us to just investigate the cost on that system, but also the permitting, even if it was like a dock that would be pulled in and out, because I think that perhaps if it was more like a dock thing and it was comparable in price to converting the reef net boat, maybe we could continue by pushing more on the county, get them to let us hook up to the dock. I was also on Monday, I was looking over at the dock on Gooseberry while it was really, really, really rough. And I was watching those two floats that are attached to the dock on Gooseberry. And, you know, they were like going underwater, waves were breaking over them. They have a very robust attachment system by just a big ring, like a big U thing around the actual dock pilings. But, and I could see like one of those Easy Dock things would be a whole lot more friendly and would have more buoyancy even than those things. And I think if we just keep pushing the county, like I'm thinking like, you know, I'm going to be in their face asking, how much did this cost you? You know, how much did it cost you? Because I was counting the number of county employees that were there standing around waiting for the docs to be delivered and stuff like that. And I'm sure a lot of those people were on overtime because it was just happening. So I really am going to be pushing, and I'm going to write a letter to Public Works and say, I would really, if you're going to do a report on this, I want to know what the cost of responding to that outage was. And because when you start looking that way, maybe they'll get a little more nice about that. Yeah, we could have had people going back and forth, or maybe there's another company that we can deal with that can get a quicker response in because they have a landing craft or something. You know, they did it like Richie said, they could do it in 8 hours. I was surprised they did it in 8 hours, but they got it done in 8 hours. So
They actually did
they did a really good job on that. So I have to give them good kudos for that. They got it done, but God, it must have been expensive.
I think they're also feeling pressure because I think people are grabbing them directly and saying, hey, because the communications this time was so much better.
Yeah, no. And so I think that what we're doing is they are hearing it. And I think they need to continue to hear it. And if any of you had any experience in this, I think it would be great to write up how it affected you. And I got trick-or-treaters and Jim's not here, so I'm going to run away. I'm sorry, but I'll be right back. Keep talking.
I hate to say this with Mary gone, but I think Public Works is not, if, go banging on Public Works isn't going to get us very far right now. I just don't see that as beneficial, not for us as a committee, because we will be banging ourselves against that instead of moving on with the rest of the stuff. And so frankly, if there's any value, I can't get involved in more stuff, but to be honest, but the ferry committee, we got some good people on the ferry committee that were to participate and kind of make that thing work. That might help a little bit, but that's only an advisory committee, and it's pretty clear that Public Works is going to do their own thing, and they're not going to do it on our timetable. They're going to say they did a great job at this point. So, I can just also just on the Easy Dock thing. Is that the floating thing that you put together with that's plastic? Extruded plastic thing.
Big Lego pad, Lego mat.
Oh, I'll tell you what, man, I put my 38-foot boat against one of those on a calm day, and it scared the hell out of me. Because I mean, and it will be moving all over the place in any kind of stuff. It's not, that kind of structure is not going to be, good on anything but a very, very calm day. It's relatively fragile because and this is was out in front of the Captain Whidbey Inn out on Whidbey Island, and I made to tie up in front of it, and they had all kinds of kind of adjustments and attachments and anchors and all this stuff just to kind of keep it relatively stable. And we were there in calm weather, and good enough. But any kind of wave action or movement, it just would have been a problem. And it's pretty clear there are problems with it already starting to pull apart. As I looked at that, I frankly would just say, we can look at other alternatives, but that kind of floating thing is just, you're going to be talking about things moving up and down and over around, all the time. I think it's not a stable kind of thing to be, unskilled people to be walking on in any kind of weather at all. So that's quick comment on that. I'm not saying we shouldn't look at alternatives, but I think that's not the kind of thing, plus we'd have to tow it and try to put it together. And you're right, it clicks together, but it takes a kind of effort to click all this stuff together. It's not like, oh, let's put this together and float it out. It's kind of, there's a big assembly kind of thing that goes along with that. And it's just all of it's plastic pieces stuck together. So
Yeah,
I
Ken,
guess
good
getting
personal
too
exper- good-
kind of
good
thing.
personal experience, good review. I posted that on the Google Doc, only because I was Googling around looking at various options, and I was impressed that, yeah, it can handle the weather, if it's properly installed. But that
It
doesn't
can
mean
handle the
it's-
weather.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it's gonna support people in bad weather if you're gonna try and,
And particularly people that are not,
yeah.
boat people, and the first things, there's no railings on the side, there's no anything,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And it's moving around, and it's, you got a whole bunch of pieces that are undulating, so it's something to think about.
Yeah, I hear you.
I just sent out an email to everybody on the committee list that I have, for how to get a reminder on how to get to the page
Okay, good.
through the menu system, and then there's also a direct link.
Okay.
All right, that's good.
Barry, were you finished?
Yeah, I can be finished. I do think that though we should keep pushing the county. I think that I think squeaky wheels do get oiled eventually. And I think that we should keep pushing the county, and it may be beyond Public Works and take it to the county council or something.
Well, county
Um,
council, if I could just say, county council, if you want to do that, and there are a group of people who want to do that, and I don't want to do that with this committee, I don't think we should do it. But it's a group of people, and you want to take this issue and put it before the county commission,
Mhm.
that's fine. But I think beating Public Works is it's not gonna get us any place, and I think they're dug in on this. And it's not, but it's the politics of this is the county council, and county council says to Public Works, we want you to prioritize putting in this temporary dock. Then they do that, but that's a
Mhm.
whole, that's a whole long-term effort to get the politics going like that.
Yeah,
I think, like I said, I think they're feeling pressure, not directly from us, but I do know that certain people in the county look at our website daily, the community website, because I get feedback from them. So I suspect that they have seen the webpage and they're following along. And I think if we just keep doing our thing,
Right.
I think it's going to filter down to them or up to them, whichever way you want to look at it. But I think we need to have more of our facts in line before we start an official push in some manner to some organization. And I think we're still doing a lot of fact gathering, but I think that the public, as long as it's not necessarily us, people calling the county and saying, hey, what the heck? That's gonna keep it busy in their mind. And I think you're probably right that at some point it might be a council thing that would have to be approached. But we're nowhere near that.
Right,
Yeah.
and if we keep if we keep kind of going where we're going on the kind of 2-level, some sort of more immediate thing, and then we get something going, as Chris was talking about, we finally get some dock guy to come and tell us, give us some idea what we're talking about to actually have a dock put in there. Then we're able to go not to the Public Works, but go to Parks. That's going to open up a whole interesting conversation here, because guess what? We're over there talking to Parks about trying to get, something going on that everybody's going to understand is, yeah, it's a park and recreations and it's access for boats and all this other stuff, all good stuff. But underlying it is the access during emergencies. So, or, when there's a need. So I think if we go with where we're going, And that doesn't discount, and I agree, Mary, you and anybody else that wishes to, or whatever, to go and start writing letters to the council and say, instead of posting all the stuff on Nextdoor, which is the good stuff.
Yeah.
If all that were put in writing and sent to the county commissioners, you start to get some sort of attention on this thing.
Right, yeah,
That's
and
my-
I know, I've lived here for 18 years. And I have been through the process of trying to work hard with the county council in order to form even Life Act to get a voice on ferry situations. I worked pretty hard. I was a board member on PLIC, and I remember how long and how hard we worked during the ferry negotiation process, where islanders basically had no say during the negotiation on the lease until we formed an organization, and then PLIC was able to at least get the ear of the county executive at the time. And so we just kept plugging away at it, and eventually, the county council decided to form a ferry advisory committee, and that's how Life Act was born. It hasn't been there for that long. So you do need to keep, like, squeaky wheels do eventually get oiled. So I'm just saying that.
So Mary, I have a question for you.
Yeah, I
In
do.
regards to Life Act, would an island-wide, what do you call it, signature process, if we got a lot of people to sign up and say, we want a emergency accessible dock now, not later, and we get 800 islanders to sign it, we give it to Life Act, will that carry any weight with the county?
Oh, yeah. If you got 800 islanders to sign it, yeah, that's almost 100% of our population.
Well, yeah, it never
Yeah.
happened, but we're just
Yeah,
dreaming big.
yeah. No, I think dream big, I think it would. And I think Life Act is behind us and is supportive. I do not feel like they are in an adversarial role at all. I think
No.
the members of Life Act are very supportive of what they're hearing. I gotta
Right.
go again,
Feel
sorry.
their- With what they,
With two things. First of all, Chris, we do have a mechanism to do that via the website. Also, I had asked in a prior meeting, one of these, if anybody had a sonar that could print. And my question, Chris, is, do we have a way to plot out where the old pilings are and the depth and stuff? It would be good to try to, I know Monday he said he might be over, but it might have been good to have that before he set foot on the island. Especially if we get a printed version of it.
Yeah, I could draw it on Google Maps real quick because I've dove there extensively, so I know exactly what's there, and I know the depths as well, just because of experience being out there. I'm sure we could find some other paperwork out there that's already been done as well. I'm sure the county has stuff from when the original dock was there. So
Yeah,
that might be something we
their
could
work.
try to search for.
I mean, I have a hand, which I actually haven't used, but it's a hand sonar, but all it really, sonar depth side, all it does is you point it down and it gives you the depth. That's all I have. I mean, other than the big, I have a whole different thing on my boat, which can give a bottom contour and all that kind of stuff. But by hand, it's just a depth thing. It won't give you anything. I mean, to find something with it, like the stump of a piling, it'd be pretty damn hard to do.
Yeah, you need something that can do contouring and stuff.
That's right. Yeah, and if we were really serious, and if they do a dock, there are companies that actually do exactly that, and they would probably have to do that stuff anyway. They go out with a boat with good equipment, and they go out and actually, do this kind of location, kind of thing. That's kind of beyond our scope and will cost us, that would probably cost as much as, Chris's list for getting the darn dock, temporary dock
Yeah.
done.
Well, I know that, but I brought it up earlier as it's a fact point. If we can do it ourselves, take one of the, on good calm weather, and take a boat out that has the contouring on it and get the data, and then Chris can annotate it. It gives us something to hand to a person that's doing dock stuff without paying money to them to say, hey, go survey this. It gives them a better clue as to what they might be up against. That's all. That's my point. Because right now, all I can do is stand there up on the landing up there for the thing and look out on the water and say, yeah, there's water.
Well, I have a kind of a different view. If we do get somebody to come and say, somebody out there and says, look, this is what you're talking about. This is what it's going to go. So we have some kind of conceptual thing that a dock company like, we've been trying to get out here. We don't need much more than that to start talking to parks and say, we've already looked at that. We've already got that, because the kind of detail you're talking about, that's going to be, when they let contracts and engineer or whatever. I think what we should be looking at is kind of getting just enough information together that we have a concept that, that we have a Congress that, yeah, we can do it, we can attach, and this is what we can do, and maybe they can give a little, write up and an explanation. We can take that into a meeting with an individual from the Parks Department and say, this is what we are talking about. How can we start working with you to get this thing going? I think what we really want to do is start getting something over and started with the Parks Department to, just enough to get them interested, either to say, absolutely not, we don't have any money, we never will. And then we can, pull up things like, Dave has talked about with the funding availability, or it's all part of our package anyway. But we get that, then we start having that conversation. We don't need a complete package and a design at all.
Yeah, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is it might be good to give us a good idea, and for any company coming to look at it, and I just a cursory idea of what we already know about the bottom.
Yeah.
Right now, it's all locked up in Chris's head. And I'm just saying that a contour sonar thing, if somebody has a boat that has that capability, it should not be that difficult for us to just get that for ourselves right now. But yeah, I agree with you.
To do a full contour is fairly sophisticated, because you actually have to they have to run a pattern, and they have to be able to record it on the computer to get the contour of the floor. I mean, the most, for example, that, like a fish finder will give you a contour of the bottom, but it's a contour kind of in general, what might be down there, but it's not going to give you anything specific. So, but anyway, if we find somebody who can do that, my thing is,
Just a thought.
if we get a dock person, I really think we need to be kind of on that end of it, the long-term end of it, focused on getting just enough information together, someone to tell us it's feasible to do some sort of dock at something. So we just have enough to kind of put our hands in it. And get a meeting with somebody at the county who will at least chat with us about what they can or can't do and what their interest is to start something going here.
Yeah, Tim, I would tend to agree, because I think that is the first step to locking in somebody at the Parks Department, which already we heard from Chris, we have a receptive audience there. And then we speak with them about these grant applications, which I'm sure they're far more familiar with than we are. But I mean, based on the little bit that I looked, there's funding there for not only building, but planning, right? So doing the engineering survey, I believe, I haven't dug into it in detail, but I think there are opportunities once we have a plan and a receptive audience that we can then apply for the grant money to advance the project.
Right. So, right, well, again, I think it wouldn't take much. I was really disappointed. Again, I've been disappointed twice now that we haven't got somebody, some company to come out and just tell us something. So we can say we've consulted with the company and whatever. So,
Hopefully Monday.
yeah, that would get us something to start chewing on.
Yeah.
On the
And I'll
long-term end of it.
I'm going to keep calling companies. I encourage any of you, if you want to start calling them too, to try to get them to respond, go for it. I've been calling the only two that have responded. So
I don't
Jeff?
think it's a good idea to have multiple people hitting up the companies.
Yeah, Jeff,
Yeah, Mary.
your dad, who did the dock over in Chuckanut.
Yeah,
Yeah, do you know who they dealt with?
I-
And
I don't, and my dad is long passed away, and
I'm sorry to hear
no,
that.
thank you. And yeah, stepmother, I'm sure would have no idea. But yeah, and to just think about that. That was one, residential dock. It had, 4 steel pilings, and this was just, as basic as you could get. And it would go dry at minus tide, so it had to be blocked off. So the dock actually never sat down on the sand. The pilings have, blocks to hold the dock in the air, so it wouldn't damage sea life. There's and then it had a ramp that came down from the rocks to it. So very, similar just to like dealing with the Parks property there by the Beach Store Cafe, but you've got much more tideland to go out over there than I've seen dealt with before. So I still have a hard time getting my head around what we see as the finished product, because while I see the reef net boat as a possible short term, it doesn't sound like a long term, and I'd hate to spend too much money on something that's going to be short term. And so I kind of agree with the comments I think Tim was saying about, we need to get somebody out here that knows how to build a dock and tell us what we could do, what our options are. And that's, I have Bayside Construction listed here. I think that's who you've talked to, right, Chris? Isn't it?
that was one of them, a guy named Greg. I actually talked to him only once on the phone, and he said to call back in 7 days, which I did. And I've left 3 messages since that 7-day return call and still have not heard back from him again.
Yeah, never trust anyone that says to call back in a week.
Yeah,
I'm in trouble, because I'll tell you that.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that sounds like, they look from looking online here, they look like as good as places we'd be looking. They probably do more lake work than they do saltwater. But
Jeff, your comments about the float and the rings to keep the dock up above whatever. I mean, that's actually helpful, even visually, to understand what we're going to deal with. Because I think all of us understand that this is way bigger than anything we can deal with. Because I put on a mooring with DNR, and I had to go through the survey. a eel raft survey, and cut out where all the other moorings are, and the Corps of Engineers said, well, there can only be one per acre and whatever, and where you want to go is too close to this and whatever, and it all works out. But that's really what the county's that's gonna be their game and thing to deal with. And for us to be kind of assisting them, we don't have to get into all those huge macro big crazy details once we get them rolling. But the question is, I think what we want to do is to figure out how to get something moving and then rolling with them, and get them on board with us. And I just really think that's really where we need to be kind of working it. Although the temporary stuff is important, and I still think I still like the reef net boat. But anyway.
I just made a note to myself. I have to talk to Chris Green tomorrow, and I'm gonna ask her if that boat dock, I know the boat was recent, if the boat dock was put in by them, or if it was on the house when they bought it. And ask her.
It was on
who-
there when they bought it.
It was? Okay.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. That guy
Okay.
went through 7-year process.
Hey, Chris,
Yeah,
would would that structure handle the weight of that reef net boat?
yes.
And even if it's modified with all the extra glass and stuff like that, it would be strong enough, the winches and everything, and just the steel
Yes.
structure? Okay.
Yeah, I've done a lot of work on it. There are some repairs that need to be made to the superstructure, but it's minimal compared to other things. I still think that, again, the best way to go would to be a trailer or actual wheels on the reef net boat itself that we can just pull up on the beach. That's going to be much more efficient. And if we can get it close, that would be the goal. So
One
let me
question.
ask, go ahead.
Where is Chris's place? You said on the north side, but is it on the?
Yeah, towards the north end of the island. She's on North Nugent.
Oh,
and
okay.
so
it's on the east
she's
side.
about,
Okay.
5 houses from the very tip. But it's quite a distance from the very tip of the island.
Oh, okay. She's right across from me. I just realized. Okay,
Arts Acres.
Yeah,
You
she's
know where Arts
close.
Acres is?
I do. Okay,
Basically across the street from Arts Acres,
got it.
Mhm.
Okay.
right by Pat and Byron Moy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right, so my next question then to you guys, because we're talking about getting more community support, obviously, not spending money that we don't need to, is something that we want to pursue, is finding out if people want to invest in something for a temporary work around the county, so we don't have to deal with them at all. This will take care of our own. We can do it. They can't stop us. Not that we're trying to cause them problems. We're just trying to come up with a solution to actually be able to take care of people. Is that something we want to get a vote of the people and say, how many of you would support this? Is that something that we should do?
I have no problem.
I think so, but I have maybe a more general question. It might be
Okay,
something that you guys that have been on the island a lot longer than I have can comment on. I'm a little bit concerned. We have our long-term goal is to get this public dock in, right? Recreational dock, supported by Parks and Recreation. It looks like, Chris, you've made good inroads there. We know now that there's funding sources to do that. And our long-term objective seems to me that we can put together a case. And if we can secure a grant and get funding, we ought to be able to do this through Parks and Recreation. Then the flip side is the short-term need that is not being addressed by Public Works. And so if we create this huge dust-up and adversarial relationship with Public Works, is that in some way going to compromise our success of getting a Parks Department, Parks funded dock put in, right? Now, I don't know the answer to that, but I have a feeling, just from conversations I've had with people, that we may be poking a bear here. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm not saying we don't move forward with a short-term solution. We have to. But how do we do that without compromising our long-term goal? Or am I just off base here?
I don't think you're off base at all myself.
It's a tightrope you have to walk.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's poking the bear, but sometimes the bear needs to be poked, but at the right time.
Right. Yeah, I know that, just looking at next door and of course our experience over the past few weeks and since dry dock, a lot of people are up in arms about the ferry situation, and I understand that. But and I think to Chris's point, Chris, I think you mentioned this at the opening. Seems like we now maybe have a lot of more support for this project, but at the same time, I don't know, do we need to proceed with some caution, diplomacy? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there because I don't know the history as much as you guys.
Dave, I'll comment on it again, just because of my personal experience. After getting to the top guy with Public Works, Roland Middleton, and having him flat out tell me that he will in no way support any type of connection to his dock or to his ferry terminal, and that anything that I want to pursue needs to be done through LIFAC, which I totally respect and understand why he would say that. I mean, that's just the way they work. So I understand that. And at that point in time, in my mind, that door became closed. And that's why I said, we got to have a workaround. There's got to be another way to do this to make it happen now rather than 5 years from now. And then as we've all been working together, you know, we have these two avenues going down. And I'm still of the mindset, let's get the public dock. But if we want something immediate, then we've got to either get support or give up on the idea and just do something else, not worry about it. I mean, I'll still run my boat over. I'll still get people up and down the rocks. That doesn't bother me. But if you think that we can garner enough support for people, not trying to work against the county, but not being a burden to them, because the more that I call in, the more burdensome I become to them, the less they are going to want to deal with me. And he flat out said that. He goes, I really don't have time to deal with the individuals from Lummi Island. I want you to go through LIFAC. And so I respect that. I can do that. And that's what I'm going to do, because Mary did it the last LIFAC meeting. I'll do it this next one. I'm going to put in my 2 cents worth there, and I'll keep pursuing that end of it. And like I say, with the fire department, I'm pushing it there. But the end around to me is not to go against them, but to not have them have any burden. Just let us do our thing and leave us alone.
Right. My sense of LIFAC, and it's not about LIFAC or REMA or whatever, is that talking about the ferry is great. But if you want to start talking about the other stuff, you know, that's kind of like really not something that is going to go anyplace. And, you know, the comment from who was it, Roland or whoever the guy?
Roland Middleton.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I got that. I understand what committees are about too. And part of it's, yeah, we have to have a committee. And part of it is, that's how we kind of keep this thing under control, because we have this committee until everybody will go to the committee, you know, do it that way. So it's both a good thing and a method of not doing anything. So, because it is a county animal, and I got it, and it's not a bad thing. And it's not about LIFAC or the people involved in it. It's just, there's that kind of thing, because LIFAC deals with public works. It doesn't deal with, you know, if LIFAC were specifically advising and dealing with and communicating with the county, you know, commission or the, you know, people, you know, whatever, that would be a whole different thing. But it's not set up
That is not true. I'm sorry. LIFAC does communicate not to Public Works. They work with Public Works. Public Works has been a person from Public Works has been assigned to work with LIFAC. That is Roland.
on the meeting.
But no, Todd Donovan, who is a county council member,
Right.
he is the county council member that goes to all of the LIFAC meetings. He is the one who liaisons with the county council and on what LIFAC is doing, and helps them write things, the whereases and those little form things. I don't remember what they're called right now, but the proclamation things for the county council. So LIFAC does work with the county council. For a long time, LIFAC didn't have somebody from Public Works directly liaisoning with it. But, you know, when they started doing the plans for the ferry, so Roland is in charge of keeping the plans for the new ferry moving and grooving and working with the consultants and stuff like that. The consultants have worked with LIFAC, and You know, so, and so this has been going on for a long time. Tim, I don't know how long you've been on the island. If you.
Oh, not long at all. Absolutely not
Okay,
long at all.
but it's been a process that's been, Chris, you've been on for quite a while, but it's been a process that's been going on at least since Life Act was formed, and before that it was PLIC, which was a community organization, and we were pushing to have a representation to the council. So they had to have somebody to listen to. So that's what Life Act is, a committee that is appointed by the county council. Like, in order to get on Life Act, you have to turn in an application to the county council. You don't automatically get on. You know, you've got, they will choose who's going to be sitting and filling those vacancies.
Well, if Life Act is the method by which we want to get a doc from Public Works, then we should go figure out how to deal with Life Act. You know,
Yeah, I think it's important to understand how it really does work.
I got it, but my sense of this has been, and from the meetings and my, limited interactions, is that, and the comment that, Chris received, is we're not going to get anywhere with this, until the new, I got it, until the new ferry's ready.
That's what they're focused on right now. They are desperate for that new ferry. But I think that as the chief is aging and screwing up more and more and more, they said, Richie said, well, it's been okay like this for 50 years. We can have it another. That's not acceptable. It's not acceptable right now. The boat has not been screwing up as much as it has in recent times. It's getting to be ridiculous, and it's getting to be dangerous.
Mary, can you comment? Is getting the voters on the island to sign something again in support of Life Act to bring something to them, would that be something we could help facilitate? I mean, is that something that would be beneficial to you guys?
Sure. I think that would be a good thing. I'm not a member of Life Act. I am not on Life Act. I have observed a lot of the meetings from the very beginning, because I think that the ferry is a hugely important thing for the island. But, I think that we need to, it might be good to try to get somebody that's on this committee to try to apply for one of those Life Act positions.
There are two of them coming up.
There is actually, I think, 3. Charles Bailey, Judy Olson, and Rayma Blake all are going to time off.
Yeah, Raymond mentioned that to me in an email when we went back and forth a couple of times. So,
and we need to get some good people on Life Act. And Rayma asked me to consider going, and I cannot right now. I will not. But we need to find some people that could be a good person. And I think I think that, I know that Judy Olson is behind what we're doing. I know that Charles Bailey thinks that what we're asking for is good. Rayma is in support of what we're doing. I don't think but I think that, getting like people to come and testify at the Life Act meetings as to like how this latest outage impacted them. All you need to do is just write up something and then read it and be sure that you email all of the Life Act members a copy, because that then goes into the public record, and the county council does look at those sorts of things. So, that's why I'm trying to push people. I'm gonna call Reed Johnson and see if he would be willing to, submit a letter about what happened to him and his family. You know, when you're sitting there with a 5-day-old baby, you know, waiting to get back home. You know, that's, you know, that kind of stuff people hear and will react to. So, Chris, I think, you know, so if you are going to address Life Act, you have like 3 minutes to do it in, and each person can take 3 minutes of public comment. But if we had 2 or 3 people there each meeting, you know, it is important. And then the county is hearing the people of Lummi Island that way. I think that your idea of the petition, I think, is great, Chris. And if we wanted to do that, yeah. I think we could put some, you know, really get some people together to write something up. If someone's a good wordsmith, I would be willing to help, but I don't like to write stuff that much, but you know, I don't know, but I think I'm gonna shut up. I'm dominating the meeting. Shut up, Mary.
Well, let's discuss where we're going next. So we know the long term, and you know, I'm throwing this out here. If I'm off base, you let me know. But from my perspective, where we're at right now, we're working towards the long term. We've got some meetings we got to have before we can really move forward on that at this point. Then we can move forward once we have those meetings. On the short term, what is it that you guys, your perspective of what we need to do? Lane.
I did want to bring up something that, and interestingly enough, that call in the background there was from our old boss at Search and Rescue. And one of the things my husband brought up recently is, you know, no matter what we do, whether it's the short term, it's with a public dock, one of the, I think the values the committee could add to this whole process is for us to really put together a deployment plan. Because right now there is no, I mean, honestly, the county doesn't even seem to have that much of a system.
That's
We
right.
need to know, we talked about getting a list of captains, and that's one part of this. But really the whole point is, like any other deployment, you have to ask, you know, how is it triggered? Who does what, when, how do we notify people? Alan, I was so excited to see some of the ways I think maybe the web page we could use for, like, did people need to get a ride home from the ferry terminal after they finally made it home and it was pouring rain? Did more cars need to go down to the Islander and pick people up? You know, do all the way through to the end game, which is, and we've seen this when we were deployed with Search and Rescue, the person was found, everything was great, you were so excited. Everybody went home, except for 2 people who showed back up to headquarters and say, what about our readiness for the next call out?
Yes.
You still have to, somebody has to wrap up, somebody has to put the boats away, somebody has to put the PFDs away, make sure they're all there. So I think there's a whole process. And so I'd like us in the next couple of weeks to maybe start to collect some ideas about that and to think about, you know, way before go live, really, we should have some drills probably to convince people. And I think that part of that is when you say we're going to have propose and try to move toward a solution, part of that is really this coordination of it.
And you're speaking of the website, that's actually something that we can prep a page for that,
yes,
that
yeah.
can be pre-built that we can activate in this kind of situation. And like you say, you know, calling for people to, you know, drive down for pick up and stuff when we don't have the shuttle. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that. And that is a way that we can do a response, yeah, to people on the island.
Yeah, I mean, in essence, there's one more piece of the emergency responder network. And yes, it'd be fabulous. Obviously, you really want the fire department to say, hey, yes, you've thought of everything. That's what you do for a living. But on a different scale, this is a very similar kind of operation.
Just a quick comment. Chris sent me a eelgrass survey, which is a historical document, and it is on the committee webpage currently under Fleming Island Historical Documents. Down the page. Let's see it.
That was just a quick search I did while we were talking about things. So I know that there's more surveys out there available for us that already exist. So that's why I sent it. It's like, well, I found it real quick.
And it's on the site already. And I'll also.
All right, Lane, I love your ideas and that we definitely need to have that coming together. So what does that look like? Where are we going from here on the immediate need? What's the next step on the immediate need?
Lane, you're muted.
For a deployment plan, I think it would be put on the agenda. Go right now, I think to go ahead and go over to, I put a small placeholder on the Google Doc and probably maybe just a separate section really, because each of us will bring kind of the different take on it. So probably get together something there so that people can, as they are suddenly driving down the street going, wait a minute, someone just had to put up signs, which means someone has to pick up signs. That's what I meant by, you know, the other side of it, the cleanup part. And if this will take a while, but I think if we start now, then that puts us in a better position come say February. If we were talking about even, you know, trying in the spring to get some kind of a vessel on the water, or even just a better coordinated response from the captains. I think there would need to be some captain education. I noticed some comments in Nextdoor about, you know, I tried to help one time, but I got criticized. And
Right. So,
okay, so when we recruit people, there needs to be the agreement that this is how it works, and you need to have a thick skin. I mean, you know, people are going to be super stressed, and you know, people might yell at you, and if that's not okay with you, you might want to find another project. So those are some of the things, Chris. But yeah, I think probably I'll work up a placeholder in the Google Doc the next couple of days and start.
So are you inviting us to then contribute to that with our ideas of what we think would be
absolutely.
necessary steps?
Yeah. Because
Okay.
like I say, each of us comes
Great.
from a slightly different perspective, but also we won't catch all of it in any case, but this gives us a better chance.
Okay, so that's something we could definitely start pursuing this week and have ready to get sent into Alan as quickly as possible, or as we think of things, I guess.
As you think.
What else in that vein? What else do we need to do for our immediate need?
I think to
Ideas?
see what the response is from the person that is coming to do the doc. And I would like to be invited to be there to listen, but I'm having cataract surgery Monday morning, so I may not be able to make it there Monday afternoon. I might be just fine.
Yeah. After
If he does show up, I will record it. I plan on recording it.
great.
making
Oh,
it
that
available.
would be great, Chris.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Because I got CRS, and if I don't record it, I won't remember what he said, so.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, but I mean, that's the long term. I mean, it can help short term, but back to the short term part of what do we need to do in order to get something to deploy rapidly now before we can get the county to do anything, before we can get parks to do anything? Do we still want to go down that path? Do we still want to try to work at getting something that people can access and use their boats on?
I think,
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. I just want, my only concern is it needs to have an engineer behind it. That's my only concern, but I think we should proceed.
I think give the engineer thing is going to be interesting to try to figure out how we actually do that, because we're talking about a boat and we're talking about whatever. So you're actually probably more or less going to be talking about a naval architect. If that's
Naval architect.
Yeah.
that's going to end up doing that. And then it becomes very, having dealt with a lot of this stuff, but it gets complicated because a naval architect or any kind of engineer, to pull them
Isn't gonna
along
sign up.
means, you know, that they're signing off and saying, this is gonna work. Engineers by nature are extraordinarily conservative beings, you know?
Yeah.
You know, and I've dealt with them building our bloody house, you know, like, you know, give me a break, you guys. You know, we don't need that many footings, we can get rid of it. Well, yeah, maybe we can get rid of one of those, because yeah, we could take the beam over there and it would be fine. So I'm just telling you that it's gonna be one of those things. So you're talking, I think, about a naval architect or somebody that able to put it that way, that to be respectable in this kind of thing, because then no other engineer will even understand what's going on. And then we're talking about somebody being able to sign off on it. You are talking design then, not just say, yeah, this will be fine. You're talking about somebody
To help
doing
with the
doing
design.
those calculations and signing off on it. You are talking significant money and time in doing that. I'm just,
No,
I think.
no, what I'm talking
And
about first,
I'm not adverse to any of this stuff, because I'm kind of like, I'm here to do whatever we can do to get something, you know, moving along here. But I think that we have to be realistic about, if we're gonna say that as a condition on any kind of dock or any kind of temporary anything, that's a big deal. And I don't know of any naval architects on the island, but maybe there's one that will volunteer.
that's my point. That Monday, I'm going to put out a post personally, not as a committee, asking the question, is there a structural engineer on the island?
The structural engineer isn't the same.
No, but if Chris is building something to attach to the boat, we need to know a good structural design for a ramp that's that big and folding and stuff. That's not a marine issue. That isn't a structural engineer issue. Yes, it happens to be on a boat, but the first part of it is this a structural thing that's going to work? And then, yeah, it's also hooked to a boat. If we want to get it certified, yeah, then you probably have to have a naval engineer involved with it too. But I just want to make sure we have a plan of what's going to be built, and an engineer can help do that.
I got it. If you can find somebody on the island that can do that, I think, and if you can find an engineer that will certify that and do that just on the ramp itself, I hope that can be done. I think most engineers will say, I have to look at the whole package to understand what's going on here.
Yeah, could be. I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you.
Right.
But
All right, well, it sounds like we'll just work towards that, finding someone that's able to. I actually know a guy that used to own property out here, Jason Bourne and his family, and he actually is an engineer in Bellingham and does that for homes and such, but he knows how to run numbers. Once you show him a design of something, I'm happy to draw up what I have envisioned, and yeah, definitely could have an engineer.
Let's see if that works.
Numbers. So I'm sorry, what was that?
No, I tell you, good. Let's see if we could try that and we can get something that we think is sufficient. Yay, let's go.
yeah, and it might be something that an engineer doesn't necessarily sign off on, but he can give us a sanity check. I'm a big one for sanity checks. Like, is this structurally making sense?
Trick or treat.
I've had to do this kind of thing, internationally, and it's, I've had some great ideas, and then I've had an engineer look at it and say, by the way, you need to do this, or you have a problem that I've never even thought of. That's why I'm suggesting it.
Okay, good.
Because it's one thing to do it for yourself. It's another to do it and have other people walk on it. And if I build something to have somebody walk on, I would like to have a sanity check of what I built.
Well, how about this? Can we do some sort of vote, or can we come to a consensus then that we want to pursue the reef net boat and that temporary ramp if we can get, some confirmation, engineering confirmation. If we simply say that, then we have a place to go. Because I haven't heard yet that we're still going that direction. If we're going to go, let's say, yeah, we're going to go that way. And if we get that confirmation, we're going to go with the temporary dock. I'd make a motion exactly that way if there would be a second. But, I think we need to decide, are we going to do that part or not?
I agree with you. And it's a matter of, if we're gonna go out and ask money for it, these are the kind of questions people are gonna ask.
No, I'm good. My question.
So I will second.
Right.
But you need to repeat it because Mary came back.
I was listening as much as
Oh, okay.
possible. So the one thing I have a question about still is if it's that question, is it a dock or is it a boat? And if it's a boat and it's going to be used by the public, then does that make it then like something that the Coast Guard needs to get involved in? Like, because the stuff with the stupid in the water is just really, it's different. The world is different than land. And
Mary,
Chris, if you
Mary, I'm
could
going to
just-
answer you real quick, just because this is where I'm at on this. I'm
Good.
already showing up with my boat and other people with their own boats. I
I
am
know
taking
that.
all the risk on. I'm hauling people and stuff like that. In my mind,
Mhm.
this is something I'm going to take on personally, and anybody else. If somebody wants the boat in their name, I'm happy to let them have it in their name, but I'm willing to take the liability and risk. Let them get blood out of a turnip. I don't care. I'm not afraid of that because I'm going to do whatever I can to help the community, regardless of what the lawyers
Mhm.
say, what the county says. And it's just to help the folks get you over to the mainland, right?
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what it's
no,
about.
I know that, but that's, I think, something that
The Coast
you
Guard.
know, they could just shut it down. We could do all this work and invest all this money, but so it might
That's
be
true.
better to check it out or, investigate some stuff like that before, that's what I would like to do, just investigate that before I say, yay, let's go for it. Because
Sure.
it would be really disappointing to, do all the blood, sweat, and tears and to get it, and then have somebody say, no, you cannot do this. This is
If it's a-
illegal.
Or higher, it would have to, in fact, would probably have to be licensed, and there's a standard for that. If we go and ask the Coast Guard, but that opens up a whole nother can of worms.
I know it does. I know it does.
It's a
And
big can of worms, because you will not get anything definite from them until, something's actually going on. So, if you ask somebody, do I need to license the boat? They will say, you have to be, this is what you have to do. You have to go get a license with the state of Washington. If it is a passenger vessel and people are paying to go on, that vessel, then that's a whole different category of licensing and inspections from the Coast Guard.
mhm.
So, if you want to get that defined, then we can, again, I will just tell you again, if you go down that route, that is fine. But if you go down and start asking those things, you're not going to get something from the Coast Guard. You're going to have to get to an attorney who knows this kind of stuff to figure that stuff out and figure out what the rules actually, where they go.
Mhm.
Back to the motion. I think it's a good idea that we do say, yes, we want to pursue, formally, we want to pursue the floating dock concept with an attached ramp. Is that wording more comfortable? Mary?
Well, then it's a dock,
Yeah, it's not a powered vessel.
right?
It's a like a barge is what Chris is basically
Right,
talking about.
right.
It's a
And-
boat
and-
hull barge
Yeah.
with a ramp, so it's a dock.
But then if it's a dock, then you're, so
Oh, it's
it's.
Well, it's a temporary, but yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
don't-
It's-
And I don't know what the answer is, so I think I need to do some homework. So I
Right,
guess I will
I-
volunteer to do some homework on that.
But I think Tim was trying to get us to make a decision of, yes, we should pursue this.
That's
Is that right,
pretty
Tim?
I just want to know. I'm good either way here, but I just want to know, are we all in that? There's no point in kind of going through this effort unless we're good with that. If we're good with that, I would feel better about a confirmation at this point, because it seemed like, to me, and it's been a really good discussion, but we've kind of, this has been a big wander today. So, and it's a good one. But, so do we want the temporary dock as part of this thing or not? Fundamentally, you can, however you want to word it, I'm good with that. Chris would probably like to know that yourself, wouldn't you, Chris?
Yeah, I think that's where we're at. We need to know whether or not we're going to keep on pursuing this. And if so, then let's take the next step. If not, then let's quit wasting time on it.
I would strongly recommend, because we have a whole bunch of committee members not present, let's send out an email specific to the committee members saying, do you wish to go down this route currently? And get a vote that way. With FOIL, we vote that way by email all the time. But because we've got a whole bunch of people that just aren't here right now. And it's just something I would suggest. But I think we should make a decision. Should we continue researching this or not? I think you've done, Chris, a whole bunch of great stuff.
He's done a bunch of work.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a bunch of work. But I think Tim has a very good point. We need to officially say yay or nay on this or not. But I say we should get all the committee members' feedback on this.
No, that's a great idea, Alan. I'm total agreement. I got plenty of other things to do, so I'd rather move on if we're not going to do it. But we need to know sooner rather than later, right?
Right.
All right, sounds great. Well, I'll go ahead and I'll commit to writing that request to the committee and find out what we're going to do on that. So if you could all reply, that would be wonderful.
Yep.
And we'll go
Yeah,
from there. I
specific.
might not have all the fancy wording, but I'll get us to the point.
Doesn't need to be fancy, but do specifically say, please respond yes or no.
Okay.
Because if you don't say that, you'll get a whole bunch of vapor.
Yeah.
You know, nobody.
And I'm
answering.
gonna throw out the numbers I've put out initially.
Yep.
Because at least that's a starting point, and I know it's based upon the research I've done, so I know it's valid. So,
And attach the PDF.
yep. Okay, great. Well, anything else for tonight that we need to cover before we go?
Just make sure you let us know, or me know for sure if you think that guy is going to show
Monday.
up.
I've been checking for a text message. He has not texted me back today. So,
Well, it's Halloween.
yeah, evidently. So, as soon as I hear from him, I will let you know.
All righty.
All right, folks. Thanks for all your work. Appreciate every one of you. You guys are all wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Hey, guys.
All right. We'll see you next
Good night.
Sunday.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you all.
Thank you.